Well, guys, you know, we were working on the robot earlier, and I told y'all I was going to build a neat little base for this guy. And as it turns out, I couldn't find the black mirror that I thought I had. But whoa ho, my wife found it. Black mirror. I can't buy this anymore. It's killing me, the stuff we can't buy anymore. But basically, black mirror is a dark gray glass that's been silvered just like a mirror, so it's got the mirror backing on here, but from the front it's so dark it looks black, and you can etch the silver off here and then backlight it and it looks really cool. So we're going to put this guy on a neat little base that's going to light, and I'll show you the light in a minute, and we'll get that done. All right, here we drew out the dimensions of the base. Needed to make sure how everything was going to fit inside. Here we're looking at the top view, and then over here the side view. Now this is our little circuit board that runs the light I'm going to show you here in a moment. And so I needed to make sure how I was going to make that fit and still get that switch to a reachable position so I could turn the thing on and off. And then over here, this is what it's going to look like more or less as far as where the light's going to come through. So we're going to have this undulating light showing through here, and then the robot will sit on that. So anyway, that's how it's going to go, and that's what it's going to look like. Now this is the light I want to use in this base. And I do not remember where I got this thing from. But it's pretty cool. Here we're going to turn it on. Try not to electrocute myself. So anyway, we're going to build our glass, our black mirror around this. And that'll look like a little recharging post for our robot here. You know, just charging up. Alright, I just cut my piece of black mirror that's going to be the top of the base, and so these are the two cutoffs, the drops, and this wrapped up black mirror over here that Jovi, my wife, found for me. We're going to cut the sides out of later, but first I'm going to grind this little guy, make the square edges nice and clean, and then we'll be able to start joining sides and grinding and all of that good stuff. So anyway, I want to get started with that. Okay, here we've got our square of black mirror, and I'm going to grind these edges flat and square. This is already set at 90 degrees, so we're going to start grinding it. When we get all four edges smooth, that'll be ready to start joining our sides to it. All right, well, we've got our piece of black mirror here. We've got the silver etched off the back. Let's see if we can get enough light behind there. No, I can't. You can almost kind of see that the silver's etched off the back so the light can come through, but I can't get light behind it the way everything's set up right here. But anyway, we've got two of our edges ground to receive the glass, and then the two pieces we're going to glue right now, we've got the silver etched off the top, so we're gluing glass to glass. We don't want to try to glue to the mirror backing because that will fail. So we had to get all that cleared off. Now interestingly, when we get this all put together, when we get our light inside there, light is going to leak through there, so we'll have to put some material in to block that light once it's all assembled. I'm going to wipe these areas before we try to join them together. And just a reminder, I think I mentioned this before, that when you're trying to glue tinted glass together, or glass that has some sort of filter to it, filtering agent, a lot of times it filters your UV and it makes it harder to glue glass together, and sometimes makes it impossible. So I'm only guessing I remember having successfully glued black mirror together. But really, I'm not 100% sure about that. So we're fixing to find out. All right, here we go. We're about to get started. Let me just put another quick wipe on my glass surfaces. Just want to make sure they are clean. Okay. Now we're going to run a fine bead of glue. There we go. And we're going to set her down. Touch down. Turn the light on. And then let's hope, whoops, I forgot. I unplugged myself. Hold on. Hold on. Here we go. Holy jamoly. There we go. All right, now let's get back up in there. Now, I haven't glued this gray glass. If I remember right, it's called Gray Light 19, and the reason for that is only 19% of the light gets through. Now when you silver the back of that, you imagine 19% of the light getting through the glass, hitting the silver, and then only 19% of that getting through on the way back out. And that being the case, you can see why it looks black mirror. But when you start wanting to glue it is when you start finding out what that really means. And that means that light, not a lot of light is getting through. Okay, now I'm gonna let that go, and I just hope those surfaces are touching properly. But we're gonna let this go for now, and we'll flip it over and glue the other side. Okay, so I've flipped it around. We're presumably glued. I'm not going to push on that, because the truth is, as the box gets assembled, it gets stronger as it supports itself. And so if we've got a little weakness, it may be strong enough by the time we get it finished that it'll stay together in spite of itself. So best case scenario, it's glued up just exactly as it should be. Worst case scenario, well, worst case, it breaks and it's garbage. But let's let's get this going. Okay, getting low on glue here. Gonna have to okay, crank up the light. All right, I just ground this surface here so it's uniform and flat. I didn't bother smoothing it. It's not necessary. This black glass is hard to see through, and as long as it's level, it'll glue up correctly. So anyway, I'm cutting these right now. I've cut this dimension, but I haven't cut them for length yet, and we'll glue those on the end here, and then I'll have to also scrape the silver and the backing off the same way I did with the other pieces in order to get them to glue together. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I'm going to cut these to length. So I just measured, made my mark. Okay. Get rid of that. Okay. All right. So now I need to trace these and scrape the silver off the back. See if I have a favorite edge that I want to turn one way or the other. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I'm gonna set this up here. Okay. Trace this off, then I'll know how much to scrape. Mark it so I put it back in the same place. Okay. Then I'll turn it over, mark this one. Okay. Get this out of the way, and I guess y'all remember this guy, huh? This is who we're building this for. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to try to do this just by holding the ruler in place, not clamping it. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to use a narrow one first and see if I can save myself some grief. So far, so good. Okay, now I'm gonna switch to a wider blade. Don't know if I showed you this, but I've got this little razor blade that I break a piece off of and chuck it up inside an X-Acto knife holder. You know, this might be worth showing y'all. I literally take a straight edge razor blade and my breaking pliers. They don't have teeth, they're flat. And I come over here and you see where this little thing is, and I grab a hold of that and I very quickly snap it off. And I do this several times, and I get several pieces of different widths. And so once I get the little piece, I chuck it up. Here's a nice skinny one. I chuck it up in an X-Acto knife blade. Here's another one, and I've got like 6 of these of varying widths, and depending on which one suits me best, I grab it and start going. And it's a very useful way to turn this into this, and then you can go in here and do some controlled scraping. And that gets the backing off. Doesn't take the silver off very well. It'll damage the silver, but it doesn't take it off. So anyway, once that's done, then I switch to some steel wool, and then I go in here and that takes off whatever backing material I left. But then you can see here where I've taken the silver off. And even with the silver on, it would probably glue up, but I'm more comfortable just getting everything off. And so anyway, getting everything off, and since I'm gonna get in there and use the UV glue, why look for trouble? Because that comes off easily enough. The rule of thumb I try to follow is shoot for perfection. You're not going to get it, and being a perfectionist is a miserable way to live. But if you don't let it rule you and you don't let it control you, you can still be happy. But shoot for perfection and settle for what you get. You know, that doesn't mean to settle for garbage. Doesn't mean to do a bad job. But means do the best you can. You'll get closer to where you want to be if you're shooting for perfection. But when you get there, relax. When you're done, and if it's not good enough, we'll do it over again. You know, I'm not saying accept bad work, and sometimes you have to do things more than once to get to where you want to be. But I tell you, my wife broke me of a bad habit. I would be working, I'd have a finished piece and I'd be showing it to somebody, and they go, "Oh my God, that's wonderful." And I'd say, "Well, this part here was supposed to be, so it's not all, and this over here was supposed to be, but it's not, so it's really not." And what I'm doing is I'm sitting here telling the person who said that was wonderful, A, you're wrong, and B, really, you shouldn't admire this. It sucks. And maybe you did do something that people shouldn't admire. And maybe it does suck. But most of the time, what I came to realize is most people can't do what we do. And they are intrigued. And maybe they love it. So don't insult them. And don't tear yourself down. Just yes, you are intimately aware of every tiny little molecule that wasn't the way you wanted it to be in the beginning. But you have a finished piece, a successful piece, and if people enjoy it and compliment you on it, what you say is, "Thank you." That's what you say. It's that easy. You don't point out all the flaws. You say, "Thank you." Isn't that great? That's cool. It saves time. Everybody's happier in the long run. So, let's see here. We're almost done. Almost ready to start gluing these two pieces on, finishing out our box. Not finishing the box, but finishing out the structure of the box. And I tell you guys, working with glass is hard, but holy cow is it fun. I mean, it's like, of all the materials that you can work with, plastic, wood, etc., most of those materials say, do with me as you will. Glass says, mess with me and you've had it. And finding ways to get along with the glass, even finding ways to break the rules and get away with it, is tremendously fun and can produce a really powerful sense of pride in your work, because you're working with a medium that has a very narrow range of behavior. That's one thing I find so fascinating about glass blowing. Boy, I was tempted to give up glass carving and go into glass blowing many years ago, but as it turns out, I saw more commercial applications for carved and sculpted glass than I did for blown glass. But boy, that doesn't take anything away from blown glass, because it is, not only is it beautiful, it is a performance art. Watching these guys do that stuff is just tremendous fun. And thank God there are people that just want to do that, whether they make any money at it or not, and the rest of us get to admire it and marvel at it. So okay, I think that's it. I think we got it. Okay, well, let me set this up for gluing and we'll get to it. Alrighty, we've got a little platform here. The light is right underneath the platform. So now we're gonna let gravity hold that in place, position me. I'll eyeball it to make sure I'm not sitting on top of the silver plate or the backing. And then we'll electrified. Looks like we are. There we go. Alrighty. So that's A. That's A. So I'm going to go ahead and crank the light up as I set down. Try to get my best positioning here. That feels good. And so there we are. Let that sit there for about 20 minutes. Make sure that we are penetrating that gray glass with our UV light. And then we'll flip it over and do the other side. Yes. All right. Well, I got the other piece sitting here. And I got this cleaned off and ready to go. So we're just gonna do this one more time. This glue's a little expensive, so you kind of learn how to put the right amount on. You don't want to throw away any more than you have to. Okay, let's go ahead and crank that up. Set her down. Use my fingertips to prove that I'm where I want to be. Okay, well, we're going to leave that alone for about 20 minutes and then it'll be ready to take to the grinding wheel, and we'll grind it like we did all the other stuff. You know, all these bullnose edges on various things that we have rounded and polished. And so, and I know we've been doing a lot of that, almost exclusively working on the lap wheel. I haven't done very much sandblasting, no carving. Well, that's not true. We did a little carving on this guy here. Like here it's got some depth, and we went below surface on all of this stuff. But by and large, most of what I do in the shop is sandblasting, you know, with aluminum oxide, and we carve and surface etch things and do what I like to call airbrush etching, which is a ton of fun. And but all the creative stuff I've been doing lately has been on the lap wheel, the grinding wheel. And so I hope y'all don't get too bored with that, because I'm having a heck of a time. But yeah, really, I thought about this the other day. I thought, you know, if an artist, a sculptor, wanted to get into glass, depending on the kind of work he wanted to do. Oh, hold on. My cockatiel's decided she's going to fly around a little bit. Be nice if she'd fly in camera a little bit. There she goes. Yeah, I think you saw her shadow. There she going around again. Yeah. She's got to stretch her wings. Oh, and a crash landing. That's okay. She recovered. Well, anyway, what the heck was I talking about? Yeah, if a particular kind of glass sculptor said, hey, I want to sculpt glass and this is my design aesthetic, the right guy could live on the lap wheel. Use very little, if any, other techniques. Just design all day long and fabricate all day long, using sandblasting merely as an accent here and there. But it is a cool tool. It is a cool tool. I was very lucky when I got mine. I got mine secondhand. Gosh, 25, I don't know, 25, 27 years ago, and I paid pennies on the dollar for it. Oh man, was I glad. I really anguished over whether to buy it when it came up for sale. And but once I had it, I couldn't live without it. So yeah, if that thing out there disappeared, I'd have to go buy another one full retail, cough it up, because you gotta have it. I gotta have it anyway. All right, we're gonna give this a few more minutes and then we'll start grinding. Okay, well, you saw we got the box assembled. I have already done a little bit of roughing on it, a little rough grinding, but we're fixing to start smoothing and you know, sort of intentionally shaping, giving it its look. So we're going to start grinding on this and see how that goes. Now I'm using a mic, so I'm hoping y'all can hear me talk over the sound of this machine. So we'll see if this is a successful experiment in that respect. I need to keep an eye. Oh, yeah, water's coming out. Okay, we just did all 4 top edges and got it ready for the pre-polishing wheel. But I need to make a little cut that I forgot to make before we finish this stage. So I'm going to turn this machine off. And then we're going to go to the little saw and I'm going to make a notch, and that's where my on-off switch is going to go. Forgot about that. I think we ought to do that first. So here we go. Okay, we're going to use this little saw here to cut out a notch. I've got to take this notch out so that my on-off switch for the light will be in place. And so this thing here has a cover to keep water from going everywhere, because there's water in here to keep the blade from overheating and breaking the glass. And but the thing is, when I lift it up to get this away, water goes everywhere. So I'm going to put this guy in place and let it be my water shield at the same time it's doing my cutting. So here we go. Messy, very messy, but it did the job. So anyway, get some of this crud off the surface here. All right, love that. Okay, now I've got to make a little score here and break that off. And then we'll go back to the lap wheel and start smoothing this thing out some more. Got the box here that we roughed our shape, then smoothed it. Now this is a pre-polished wheel or disc, and so we're going to go over everything again with this, and then we can take it to a polish. So that's the procedure, and here we go. I think we're ready to go to the polishing wheel. Take all of this fuzzy hazy to a polish, and it'll start to look like one piece. It'll start to look good. The polishing disc is a little risky because it's not flat and it has a little give to it, it can grab your work and just take it right out of your hand. And so you've got to have a little more strategy, especially when you're shaping things that have a point or a corner. You have to approach those corners just right so it doesn't dig into the wheel or the disc and ruin the disc and your work. Okay, well, I'm going to cut y'all loose now and go through the rest of this piece, and we'll come back when I've got it all polished up. So take a break, take a nap, drink a Coke, do something. All right, well, that's it. So we've got polished edges all the way around. Now all we got to do is build the guts, the lights. So let's turn this thing off and move into the other room. All right, well, now we have the box finished. We've got the slot cut out for the switch, and I found a little flashlight. So here you can see how where the silver was etched off, light will come through. Now let's see if we can spot this. Where I had to remove the mirror and the backing off in order to glue them together, we've got these little fine gap where light comes through. So because we're putting a light inside here, I tell you, you really couldn't see it without backlighting it. But because we are putting a light in there, I'm going to have to take some black rubber material, and it's not real obvious all the way around, but yeah, clearly if I didn't seal that up, it would be a problem. So anyway, we're going to take this black material and squirt it in and run it all around the edges, and that'll block light. And so I'm going to do that right now. All right. So I'm using this this tulip paint that I use for some other tricks and things, and it'll work perfect for this. Turn that off. Let me just start squirting around. Oops, did I? No, I didn't. Run over that again. Okay. So we're just making sure we're covering all of the gaps where the light can come through. And that will solve our light leaking issue. There we go. That's it. Good enough for me. All right, let's let that dry and then we'll fool with other stuff. Hey there. We're fixing to glue. Where the heck am I looking? We're fixing to glue this tube, this light, this neon, into our base here. And I've already, oh, let me lower the camera here a little bit. We've already used two-way tape to attach the electronics here. And so now I've got the tube just sitting in there. And what I'm going to do is I don't want to put glue between it to stick them together like you normally would, because I don't want the glue to show in the light transference. I don't want it to be an unsightly spot or blot or whatever. And so let's see, I had a nozzle around here somewhere. What did I do with it? It's a good question. Oh well. Excuse me while I go look for it. Okay, finally found it. Let's see here. Let's make sure. Okay, that's looking good. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drape a little silicone. I'm going to touch down here, just drape it over, touch down there, and when that thing dries, it'll be stuck. It won't move. I mean, you could, you know, scoot it back and forth if you tried, but I'm not going to try. Okay. Get the nozzle filled up. There we go. So we'll start over here. Just drape it over. Let it land down here. There we go. That looks good. That way it will never touch where the light shows through. Here we go. And when that dries, it will be like rubber bands holding it in place. So we're going to have to let that set for a few hours. Okay, what you can see here is that I have glued these little posts in each corner, and that's what we're going to mount our little cover to. And so everything is done, so all I've got to do is screw this down, and then we will be ready to light it up. And then Mr. Roboto over here can enjoy his little stand, his little base, and it'll finish out the presentation for this guy. So let's just crank this down and then crank it up. Okay, so here we are looking at the robot on his base. That's pretty neat. Let's take a closer look at that light. And I like the way that just moves around and everything. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to turn off the lights and see how this looks. Okay, I didn't turn all of them off, just a couple. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I'm glad we did this. So anyway, there we recycled an old light that I had cannibalized from something and turned it into a really cool, neat base for my robot sculpture. And so, you know, I guess that's better than a real job, huh? Okay guys, well that's the end of that. We got the base built for the robot, and I have received from my supplier the glass we need to do the flying saucer, so I guess that's what's going to be next. Although it's a little intimidating. Now that I've got the glass all in one pile, I'm very surprised at what this thing's going to weigh. If I had to guess, I'd say 35 pounds. I'm not sure, but holy cow. So the flying saucer is going to be some sort of tricky grinding using a machine that wasn't made for doing miters and bevels on circles, but I have had some success improvising my my lap wheel to do that, and so we're going to prove it one way or another that this will do a complex job and do it well. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Tune in next time. Push all the buttons. It doesn't even have to be on the same page as this video. Just push every button that you ever see on any screen on your computer when you're on YouTube. Thanks. Talk to you later.